Hello and welcome to Software Testing with Ree. In this video, I'm going to walk you through aggregate functions in SQL in detail with simple and easy to understand examples. So let's get started and see how these functions work and why they are must for testers. When working with databases, we often need to look at the bigger picture, not just individual rows. That's where aggregate functions come in. They allow us to take a whole set of data, like all the sales, all the orders, and calculate something meaningful: total, averages, counts, minimum, maximum, and for testers, these functions are incredibly valuable for spotting patterns, trends, and potential data issues. Now, what makes aggregate functions different is that they don't work row by row. They look at the data as a whole. Sometimes you'll use them without group by, which means you are summarizing the entire table. Other times you'll use them with group by to break the data into groups and calculate results for each group separately. We'll see examples of both in just a moment. Alright, let's talk about the key type of aggregate functions you'll see most of often. You got count function to count rows, sum to add up values, average for averages, minimum to find the smallest value, and maximum to get the largest. These are simple functions, but they are incredibly powerful when you are testing data. And coming up, we'll walk you through some clear examples. So, why are aggregate functions so important in database testing? Well, first, they are great for data validation. You can quickly check if total, averages, or counts actually match what's expected. They also help with regression testing, making sure that any changes in the code or data don't accidentally break those calculations. And they are super useful for data quality testing, helping you spot missing or incorrect data. Finally, you can even use them for in performance testing to see how well your aggregate queries run on large datasets. Now, let's talk about count function. This function simply tell you how many rows are in a table or how many non-null values are in a column. Why is this useful? Well, it helps you check how many records exist, whether your data is complete, and it's great for testing business rules, like verifying if there are exactly 100 orders. And the syntax, super simple. Select count star from table name. Let's look at a quick example with this employees table. Well, we have we have got 5 rows, each with an employee ID, name, and department. Now, notice that one of the departments is null. In our first query, we use count star. This counts all rows, so we get 5 total employees. But in the second query, we use count department, and that only counts the known null values of department, which gives us 4. So this is a good example of how count function works a little differently depending on whether you are counting all rows or a specific column. Now let's move on to sum function. This function simply adds up all the values in a numeric column. So it's great for calculating things like total sales, total salaries, or total quantities. In database testing, sum function is super useful for validating financial totals, and it can also help catch errors like missing rows or duplicate data. The syntax is really simple. Select sum column name from table name, and it's a great way for tester to quickly verify that the numbers are adding up the way they should. Let's walk through an example using this sales table. We got columns for order ID, product, quantity, and price per unit. In the first query, we calculate the total quantity sold by using select sum quantity, and that gives us a total of 30. Then in the second query, we calculate total revenue by multiplying quantity and price per unit and then applying sum. Select sum quantity multiplied by price per unit, which gives us 181. This is a really practical way for testers to make sure that the total matches what's expected, especially in financial or sales reports. Next, we have average function, which calculates the average or mean of a numeric column. So, why do we use it? Well, it's great for checking things like average sales, average salaries, or average prices. Really, any kind of numeric metric. In database testing, average function helps us validate business rules, like making sure the average salary is above a certain value or that average order value stays below a threshold. It's also a good way to spot outliers or incorrect data. And the syntax is select average column name from table name. Let's look at a quick example with this employees table. It has columns for employee ID, name, and salary. Now, let's say we want to calculate the average salary. We can run this query, select average salary as average salary from employees, and the result is 6000. That's the average of all the salary values in this table. As a tester, we can use average function to check whether the average salary meets business expectation. Now, let's talk about minimum and maximum function. Minimum function gives you the smallest value in a column, and maximum function gives you the largest. These are super useful when you want to quickly check the range of values in your data. In testing, they help us validate business rules. For example, making sure that no product costs less than $1 or that no salary exceeds $10,000. They are also great for catching extreme or incorrect values that could cause issues. And here's the basic syntax. Select minimum column name, comma maximum column name from table name. Let's look at an example using this products table. It has columns for product ID, product name, and price. Now, say we want to find the lowest and highest product prices. We can use this query. Select minimum price as minimum price, max price as max price from product table. The result shows minimum price is 10, that's the USB cable. Max price is 1000, that's the laptop. Now, let's talk about group by, one of the most powerful tools when working with aggregate functions. When we use group by, we are telling the database to organize the data into groups based on one or more columns like region or department. Then we can apply aggregate functions like sum, count, or average, but now it's done for each group. This is really useful in testing because it lets us check things like total sales per region or average salary per department. It also helps us catch errors like missing groups or totals that don't match business expectations. In short, group by is a great way to validate group data. Here's a simple example using this orders table. We got sales data which with each order tied to a region and an amount. Now, if we want to see total sales per region, we can use group by region and then apply some amount to calculate those totals. The result shows East had 250, West had 500, and North had 250. This type of query is really helpful in testing, especially when you are validating reports and making sure that group totals are accurate. So, how do testers actually use aggregate functions in real world testing? One really common use is for data validation, making sure that total row counts match between a source and target, especially after an ETL process or data migration. They are also great for financial testing, verifying totals like sales revenue or discounts. We use them for boundary testing too, applying min and max function to check that values like salary or price stay within the expected range. And of course, we test business rules, for example, using average to confirm that something like average salary time meets the required target. Here's a great example of how we can use aggregate functions in a real test case. We have got this sales table showing sales amounts by region. Now, the business rule says each region should have total sales greater than $5,000 and no region should be missing from the report. So, we run this query using group by region and applying some amount. The result shows East is at $6,000, that's good. West is at 5,500, that's also good. But North and South are both below the $5,000 target, so those would fail the test. This is a perfect example of using group by with aggregates to help validate business logics in a report. Alright, let's do a quick recap of what we have covered. We saw how count helps us figure out how many rows are in a table. Sum is great for calculating totals. Average gives us averages. Mean and max shows us the lowest and highest values. And with group by and aggregates, we can break down and analyze totals by category like region, department, or customer. At the end of the day, these aggregate functions are really powerful tools for database testers. They help us ensure data correctness, enforces business rules, and validate the accuracy of reports. Thank you so much for watching this video on aggregate functions in SQL for testers. If you found it helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, which is Software Testing with Ree, and tell me in comments what topic you would like me to prepare topic next video on. I'll be bringing more easy to understand videos on SQL and software testing topics very soon. Stay tuned and I'll see you in the next video.